Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So, on today's episode, I've got an interesting topic that has been brought up a couple of times in a couple of different places, and there was a post on Reddit recently that really got me thinking on this, and there are some other kind of posts lately by Mark Rosewater that got me thinking on this too. So, let's discuss how good or bad Commander is or can be for Magic overall. And yeah, you might just think, well, people enjoy Commander, right? Shouldn't that just be a good thing? And yes, in some ways, it definitely is. That the fact that Commander exists has definitely expanded Magic's reach to a lot of different places, but that also can be a bad thing in some ways. I would say that the reason we are getting all these secret layers, the reason that we're getting all these crossovers is, well, in part due to the success of Commander. You wouldn't necessarily have these if, say, Standard was the main format. If Standard was the number one format, the justification of doing a side set in Lord of the Rings or a side product in other, franchises as well, it'd be hard to justify. It'd be hard to actually go about doing it, at least in my opinion. And so we kind of see like these weird justifications for certain actions. Let's jump into the first of these discussion points with a post, on Blogatog, which is Mark Rosewater's blog. And some people tend to get confused with what part is Mark and what part is the person asking. So I highlighted in blue Mark's responses, okay? At least I hope I did correctly. So if there was a Modern Horizons 3 product in the future, do you think we would see Commander deck products released alongside of them? And this was back in April of 2022 when this question was asked. And then Mark's response was, would you all like that? Which, in my head, if any of their football fans are out there and you're just thinking of Kirk Cousins, would you like that? You like that? No, okay, anyways, no one else. All right, anyways. Basically, would you all like that is kind of the, hey, yeah, why not? Now, if we think logically about it, though, I mean, this is supposed to be a product that is for Modern, correct? But the focus again on a question would be like, hey, for this Modern product, for Modern, a different format, completely different format, what about Commander, huh? What about Commander? And this wasn't, necessarily pushing for it, but obviously with Mark's questioning, maybe they're already thinking about that ahead of time, essentially on doing that. Now it becomes like, hey, is this something the community wants? If the community wants it, Wizards is going to give it to you if it gives them more money, essentially. So moving on to the next Blogatog piece, and this one's more recent from February 24th of this year. Why on earth would Modern Horizons have a Commander Precon? This is so infuriating. Modern gets a set once a year, whereas Commander gets Precons and cards dedicated to it every standard set. And more than that, actually. But now Modern Horizons, a set dedicated to Modern, has cards that won't be legal in Modern. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Mark's response, I'm assuming what, it was not why, but what harm does Modern Horizons having Commander decks do to Modern? Basically, like, what harm is it creating for Modern if you're giving them Commander Precons that Modern can't use because those cards aren't going to be legal in Commander, which again is kind of strange, right? When you're creating an entire set for Modern, but you're like, hey, these cards that are kind of, attached to the set, but not a part of the set, those aren't Modern legal. Those are for Commander players because with every single set in the year, we need to give Commander players Commander Precons because those sell like hotcakes, and Wizards is trying to kind of find any way to insert Commander into anything, it seems. Moving a little further into this, even another Blogatog post. The question is not why is a set called Modern Horizons, but why does the Modern set need Commander Precons? Not every set needs Commander Precons. I agree. I even play Commander, and I can't keep up the volume of Precons being released. I agree. I do this for a living. I talk about this for a living, and I can't keep up either. These instead could have been any number of things to help people get into Modern. 100% agree. There are people in your player base other than Commander players, or as Wizards forgotten that, as a business you make products A, B, and C. A is widely popular, B is somewhat liked, and C has a dedicated following, doesn't sell well. You're going to make more A than B and C, and more B than C. Sorry, that's part of Mark's response. I missed that part, so here, let me re-highlight this. There you go. We make a lot of Commander decks because there's a huge demand for Commander decks. It's the most played tabletop format. If we make too much of something that is, we exceed the demand, we'll know that because products won't sell. With that information, we'll adjust accordingly. We'll get back to that point. There's no evil plot afoot. We're just trying to make what the players want. As for making pre-constructed decks for Modern, there are some huge challenges. The power level needed to be viable in Modern does not line up with the price point players are willing to pay for a pre-constructed deck. Okay, so a couple of big points in here and things that Mark is saying, and I do appreciate Mark actually, responding to community. Sometimes, I don't know if the responses are all that helpful sometimes, because with this, the explanation of, hey, if we make too much of something, we'll know it's bad if they don't sell. Like, just because something doesn't sell, that something does sell does not mean it was a good decision. That does not make it a good decision, because when it comes to Hasbro right now, it seems like, again, they are making decisions based on the short term to get the most that they can out of the Magic product because the rest of their business is failing super hard. Their stock is tanking, they're doing awful, and even though Magic is doing well, kind of like that article from, I can't remember what, it was like Forbes or something even, basically like, hey, they're killing the golden goose. They essentially just want to get everything they can out of this now, and they are going to be hurting the long-term viability of Magic by making these decisions that are short-sighted when it comes to revenue, essentially, instead of long-term viability of the game, health of the game. There's no evil plot afoot. I'm not going to say there's an evil plot afoot. It's not like, hey, we'll do these because it's bad for players. No, it's just that Wizards and Hasbro want more money, so they're going to make these decisions 100% based off of money than what they think is actually best for, in this case especially, Modern. They are making decisions based on money versus based on, hey, let's bring more people to the Modern format. By, again, we made this, set essentially Modern Horizons 3. Cool, we're trying to bring people to the format. Oh, but there needs to be a Commander product. Instead of, if you had those Modern pre-constructed decks, yeah, that could bring more people into that format by giving them a viable deck to play in that format, instead of, again, this kind of weird hodgepodge decision to be like, oh, this is Modern Horizons 3. In the set, there's definitely going to be like new Commander staples in there and new Commanders. Like, that's just what they're going to do because Commander is the actual draw, not Modern for them. And so, again, instead of having those pre-constructed decks be in Modern, it's going to be in Commander, which, again, is a weird marriage because those cards aren't actually legal in Modern, which is so strange. It's very strange. It just really is. And, again, as a Commander player, I 100% agree with this person who made this post where it's like, yeah, I can't keep up with everything that you're doing. And Wizards like, it's okay, you don't have to. Ha 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 ha. You kind of do if you're in Commander because Commander games already take a long time when you're making so much product and so many new cards that when I sit down at a table as a very dedicated Commander player and I'm seeing 10, 20 cards I have not seen before played in a game of Commander or to even recognize them because there's so many sets, so many products, the game takes even longer because they're trying to figure things out on the fly. Versus back a couple years ago, right? You didn't have to do that. If you played Commander consistently, you're like, okay, I know what basically everything does. That being said, another kind of step on this, which is kind of weird in that Wizards likes to admit but not admit sometimes, and like sometimes say that we don't recognize the secondary market, but like, oh, we also do. Yeah, here again, when it says the power level needed to be viable in Modern does not line up with the price point players want to pay for a pre-constructed deck. Mark, okay, let's be honest here. Printing a $100 staple card is the exact same thing as printing a basic land or trash card, essentially, right? It's the exact same cost for you to print those two things. You printing a Commander Precon costs the exact same. Actually, it costs more because there's more cards in it, right? It costs more to print for you to print a Commander Precon because there are 100 cards in it than it does for you to print a Modern Precon, which would be what? Probably 60 plus 15 for the sideboard, 75. Should be 3/4 of the cost, right, for you. So why do you need to jump that price point to a point that players would not pay? Couldn't you just say, okay, again, Commander Precons are 40. Why can't you make a $40 Modern Precon deck and be agnostic, be just completely unaware of what the secondary market for those cards are? But you are aware of that secondary market, and you don't want to tank the value of those cards because you want to be able to make future reprint sets where you're like, oh, look, the draw to this one is Mana Crypt or whatever. I mean, that's not a modern card, but whatever a big modern card is these days, whatever the big draw for that would be, you're then lowering that value, right? Which is why you won't do that, because you want those reprints in certain things, like one per secret layer, essentially, right? It's kind of what you do, and then you just put trash for the rest of the cards, essentially, but justify that based off, like, art, like the draw to, like, oh, like, it's nostalgic or whatnot, or, like, the player like this one, or value is the main kind of proposition when it comes to Wizards in making these decisions. And again, when it comes to just what is good, not just for the Commander format, what is good not just for the Modern format, what is good for Magic in general is being pushed aside, and the decisions are 100% based off of monetary value to Wizards, because Hasbro is a terrible company that is struggling super hard in every other aspect except for this one division of Wizards and Magic the Gathering, and it's a pathetic thing. It's very pathetic, and again, it's just very, very sad. Now, again, with this whole thing, this whole entire, decision to do modern pre-constructed decks that are Commander decks, but that's the reason that they're doing them, because, like, they couldn't do price point for Modern. Well, the price point for Commander has been changed as well, apparently. On Amazon, we can see that, hey, these are already selling the pre-sales, essentially, for the Modern Horizons 3 Commander decks, $70 per deck. I mean, we started off with pre-cons being, what, like $25, $30, essentially, a piece, right? And then these days, they're like 40, maybe 45. And now, because this isn't even like a reprint thing, right? This isn't even a reprint like, oh, they have to be expensive because the reprints are expensive. No. This is literally them just being like, oh, we can get more for these because, ooh, it's in Modern Horizons 3. We're going to push the power level on these. And because these cards are more powerful, that means they're more expensive to print. No, they are not. They're the exact same cost as printing any of the other Commander pre-con decks, unless you're including more cards, which you are not, right? It says 100-card deck. Oh, it looks like you get a 2-card collector booster sample pack. Okay, so maybe that's the justification, I guess. You're just throwing in extra things for no reason. Is that really what's happening in these? You're just throwing in it's a 2-card collector booster sample pack. Please let me know in the comments below. Have those been included in previous ones? Regardless, a 2-card little pack does not justify a $30 price increase. Goodness gracious. So again, Wizards is just making very strange decisions because they're trying to justify getting more money out of Commander players again, because Commander players are the main draw. They're, shoehorning in Commander into everything they possibly can. Again, even a set that is supposed to be, Modern Horizons. And we'll get to that here in a second. But first up, let's talk about another, again, the Reddit post that kind of sparked this all for me, actually, just kind of looking into this more. World Championship decks are the solution to Magic's Commander problem. So this is kind of a discussion that's been going on for a while, is that when it comes to the long-term health of Magic, I mean, when I started playing Commander, I thought it was the greatest thing in the world, and I absolutely love playing Commander. But if I'm going to be honest with myself and just kind of saying, like, is Commander, being the biggest out of all the formats, the healthiest thing for Magic? Right now, after everything that we've seen in the way that Wizards and Hasbro goes about everything, I'd say absolutely not. And we'll get into that here in a bit. Everyone knows it. Magic is now all about Commander. It is the default format of the game now, and it warps every set and product releases. I mean, again, as we just saw with Modern Horizons 3, right? Again, the product release, like, hey, Modern Horizons, modern, yay! Also, here's some Modern Horizons precons that are for Commander. We've seen numerous times how cards like True Name Nemesis or the Initiative have completely broken Legacy in half with very low care from Wizards. Yeah, they do that. They tend to do that. The number of legendary creature cards made for Commander have increased exponentially in Standard sets, take away from important rares and mythic slots that were used to bring cards to Standard and Modern to help balance those formats. More and more focus are on Commander decks and sets, and even Modern Horizons 2 is heavily criticized for being Commander Horizons. It definitely was. This is not news to anyone, and a lot of discourse recent years has been about it. Generally agreeing that this is a problem for the game. Content creators like Pleasant Kenobi and the Professor are known to be critical of this new Magic the Commandering era, and even EDH content creators like the Command Zone and the Spike Feeders have stated that is a problem. Now, how does Wizards fix it? In my opinion, the answer is simple. Bring back World Championship decks. I have many reasons to believe that the return of World Championship decks could reignite the flame on competitive 1v1 formats. So again, this is kind of bringing back up, I mean, again, if I'm understanding this all correctly, right, essentially giving those players a way to get into those formats easy, kind of like the Commander Precons, would be perfect. One of the biggest reasons new players gravitate towards EDH is the low cost of entry. That can definitely be one of the reasons. I mean, another is just the social aspect of the format, just kind of how the format works and how you can just build any kind of a deck. But yes, I'd say the low cost of the format compared to trying to compete in Standard with a $500 deck or Legacy with a thousands of dollar deck, it's going to be more appealing to jump into Commander. It's easier. Precons are widely available and can help them learn the game while having fun with a deck that can hold its own, all that for $40. They have a lot of different options and can choose a precon they like. Even if they don't want to buy a precon, good EDH decks can be built for cheap. There are a ton of resources online that can help you build a strong deck for less than $100, even around $25 or so, right? Having World Championship decks would basically serve the same purpose EDH precons serve. The novelty of playing with a World Champions deck is very appealing. I taught a lot of players Magic, and every time they learn about World Championship decks, their eyes lit up. They can't believe how cool of an idea that they are always super bummed that it doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, back in the day, I remember being in a friend's house and just seeing kind of like the gold-bordered World Championship deck signed, the Grim Monoliths in it, Thran Dynamo. I can't remember which deck that was exactly, but just I remember just the appeal to that and just seeing just how cool that was. Like, these are the best of the best cards for this deck. This player put together this amazing deck that won it all, and here it is, and I can hold it as well, and I don't have to actually go out and buy all these expensive cards on their own. The novelty doesn't apply on new players, however. Many veterans and collectors would be super interested in this kind of a product. The idea of creating the ultimate 2022 modern battle box with the best decks of all time is great. The possibility to have decks from different eras clash is even better. This sort of content is very popular online. Card Market and MTG Goldfish have been doing it for a while, and the reception seems always excellent, so I'm sure people enjoy the opportunity to do it in real life. Obviously, the big financial risk for Wizards is that people buy World Championship decks instead of real cards to build the decks themselves. I also don't think that's what happens, since Magic players love to collect and hate playing fake cards. So that is a bit of a point where, again, I'm not sure on that point, actually, because, yeah, when it comes to Commander itself, I mean, if you're talking about people in other formats, then maybe, yes, that could be a point if proxies aren't allowed in certain formats. But when it comes to Commander, you can proxy whatever you want. Like, players just, I guess here's the thing. There's a rule 0 in Commander, right? Everyone should be, being discussing things ahead of time. And one of those things can be, like, are you okay with proxies? I have not run into one player in Commander, and I played for how many years with how many countless people, one player saying, no, I don't want to play against proxies. I'm not okay with that. Commander is a very welcoming format, and yeah, I mean, that's just the thing. Just look at Commander's casual format. Even when people play at home with their friends, almost nobody uses proxies or gold border cards in their decks. Not only buying real cards, but fancy versions of these cards, etc. I'd say that if you haven't played anyone who has used proxies, maybe you've just played with the same group, or maybe your LGS, just it's not a thing. But from my experience, there are plenty of people who played against that proxies. If you go to a command zone, a command fest, yeah, you're going to find people with proxies as well. And this is kind of the financial risk at Wizards. And when it comes to these World Championship decks, I think it's an interesting way to get people in. I do think there's some good points. I do think that there's some points that might be slightly off, but I do think overall, having easier ways for players to get in the format is good. And when it comes to Wizards making precons that could do that, I think that could be a good way to go about it. Scaled pro scene tremendously. Competitive scene is huge help for multiplayer games longevity. Look at fighting games, MOBAs, other card games like Hearthstone. People chase the meta, are constantly inspired by pro players trying to improve at the game in hopes of simulating what those players are doing. World Championship decks would bring a lot of attention to the scene, showing new players what the pros are doing directly and giving them an opportunity to try for themselves. This could really help the competitive scene, which would in turn help the longevity and health of the game. Challenger decks are an enormous failure, from what I've heard as well. From a design standpoint, they're great basically precons for 1v1 formats, but nobody buys them. While playable Challenger decks are often not the same level of the strongest decks in the format, they're restricted by reprint value since they are made of real high-demand cards, almost always pretty basic decks without a lot of crazy cards or interactions, greatly due to the last point. They're often incomplete versions of some variation of red deck wins or white weenies, very basic archetypes that don't interest a lot of players, especially new players coming out of Commander, but can easily summon Army Legendary Dragons. So I would agree with that. I mean, I think it's a half measure when it comes to those Challenger decks, and I've not heard of them being very successful. I agree with that. And essentially, going the half measure again of not printing a deck that's actually going to bring someone into the format because they can't play one of the most expensive, most powerful, most interesting decks out there. It's a half measure that, yes, some people are interested in, many are not, it seems like. When it comes to getting people in the format, yeah, a World Championship deck could definitely be something along those lines. Absolutely a way to do it. But I do think, too, that I think Wizards needs to be more reasonable, and I think this was the perfect opportunity in Modern Horizons 3 to make those Modern Horizons pre-con decks for Modern. We don't need more. We don't need this many Commander pre-cons every single year. Back in the day, right, we had 5 a year, and that was incredibly exciting to see what new things are coming to Commander. Now it's literally 5 every month, essentially. So we don't need Commander precons every single opportunity or every single set or even in between sets, right? Fallout just came out with some too in between, right? We don't need that. So instead of focusing more on Commander, again, the justification is, well, it made us money, therefore it was a good decision. Not necessarily for the longevity of Magic. Again, other formats are being ignored. Other formats are being not even just pushed aside, but like, again, what was said earlier, right? Kind of like hurt by Commander products, by, miscellaneous Commander cards. Like True Name Nemesis comes in and just that's a problem in another format, even though like, oh, it's a fun Commander card. Sure, why not? These kinds of things are just decisions, again, that Wizards is just making because, again, their justification is it was a good decision because it sold, versus their decision should be more long-term focused in thinking that, hey, maybe we need to make sure that other formats are healthy so the long-term longevity of the game is good. Oh, okay. So just overall, I mean, it's not all doom and gloom with Magic, right? There are definitely some bad things that are happening, in my opinion. Again, just the just abundance of just so many new cards every year, especially ones that are designed for Commander, is absurd. There are too many new things coming out, too many products coming out, too many of everything, too much all the time that no one, not even someone who does this every day for a living, can keep up. Literally. So how are you supposed to just expect like just your normal, typical, everyday Commander player to keep up? Again, when you're sitting down at a Commander player table, if you go to your LGS, okay, you sit down at a Commander table, just let me know. Just in the comments below, do you find that there are just, what's that card do again? Okay, that was from, oh gosh, that third pre-con that came out. Oh gosh, out of the 30 pre-cons that came out this year. Okay, what does that one do? Okay, what's the interaction? All right, how do I respond to that? Versus a couple years ago, right? It was just, hey, okay, I know basically what I'm going to be seeing because there's a reasonable amount of cards, a reasonable amount of Commander-specific cards too coming out every year. And I can guarantee that in Modern Horizons 3, we're going to be seeing an absurd amount of cards that are specifically for Commander. I mean, let's just really quick take a look at Modern Horizons 2, which again was criticized for being basically, Commander Horizons 2, essentially, Commander Horizons 1, and see kind of what kind of spells in that, or what kind of cards in that were essentially, basically just built for Commander. Let's see, Modern Horizons 2, not reprint. Let's see if I can get this going. Okay, here we go. Esper Sentinel. Yeah, that's built for Commander. Again, whenever you see, like, an opponent, those kinds of cards where it's only, like, it affects everyone, but you, and it's not just, like, one specific opponent, that's for a multiplayer format. I mean, they make those cards worded that way so it can work in both 1v1 or multiplayer, but the amount of value you get in multiplayer is absurd with Esper Sentinel. Yavimaya, I mean, that's interesting. Dothy Voidwalker, yeah, that's definitely a Commander-specific card. Tez Provisioner, Treasures, Commander-specific. Dam, Commander-specific. Liquimetal Torque, Commander-specific. Academy Manufacturer, Commander-specific. Ragavan, works on all of them. There we go. Sanctum Weaver, Commander-specific. Goblin Archaeomancer, yeah, definitely. The other, what's the Goblin? Electromancer, whatever the other one is. Very popular. Let's make another version of that. Sithis Harvest Hand. Again, when you see legendary creatures, obviously that's specifically for Commander, really, for the most part, when it's like, oh, hey, yeah, a new Commander, a new exciting Commander, one that's very powerful. Profane Tutor, Nettle Assist. A lot of cards that Chatterfang, my gosh, I forgot everything that was actually in this. An absurd amount of cards that are Commander-specific. Caldera Complete, Cauldron Complete, whatever it is. A lot of Commander-specific cards. Were there Modern cards? Absolutely, like the Endurance-type cards. Those, I mean, kind of like broke the format from what I've heard, but still, a lot of cards that are specifically for Commander in this, so I can definitely understand the frustration of players in, other formats. Like, again, if this is supposed to be for Modern, make it for Modern. But you're trying to bring in too many interests in. Again, what Wizards is trying to do is they're trying to justify every single product that they are making with extra sales by bringing Commander players in. And that's exactly how they're going to be doing it again with the precons again in this, to say, hey, if it sells, it's a good thing, versus is that actually good for the long-term health of Magic? I don't think so. Again, like, I think that you are oversaturating Commander. Eventually, Commander players are going to get tired of spoilers every other week. And you are also diluting, I think, other formats, and you're diluting the importance of Commander by making it everything every day all the time. And again, you are justifying decisions that some might say are Fortnite-like, where you're just like, okay, all these other IPs, let's bring them in and just get a lot of money from bringing in those other interests in those other IPs. And are there some good things about bringing in those other IPs? Yeah, there are some benefits. I cannot deny that, like, you could bring in some new players, but is that the focus? I don't think so. I think the focus is, oh, look how much money Lord of the Rings made us. We made an absurd amount. We pushed some cards in that to sell that set. Let's do that again and again and again. And we already heard that, next year, starting next year, we are going to be getting 2 Universes Beyond dedicated full sets every year, which I think is terrible for the outlook of Magic. Again, it's very kind of Fortnite-esque in the way that Fortnite has just become, oh, look at that product, look at that product, look at that product. Again, there's that meme in Magic, right, of, okay, I attack you with my Doritos Commander, which makes you get 1 Mountain Dew point. And yeah, that's just kind of what Magic is becoming these days. And it's these small little steps, these weird small little things. But again, just a very simple question that was asked 2 years ago, right? Has a lot of application today. If there was a Modern Horizons 3 product in the future, do you think we would see Commander deck products released alongside them? Would you all like that? It's something that kind of seems just like an innocuous question, but it's one that really kind of just drills down into what Magic has become these days. Versus, if you ask this question, like, okay, like, hey, we're going to make a modern specific set. Oh, cool. Like 10 years ago, you asked this question. Okay, cool. Yeah, awesome. All right, Mario specific, all right, for modern. And then like, oh, by the way, we're going to throw in these things for this other format. Why isn't this for modern? Oh, no. We need to throw things in for this other format. This other completely different format that's called Modern Horizons 3 Commander Precons, but they're not legal in modern. That makes absolutely no sense. And again, it's just a cash grab at this point, and it's just... Again, it's not all doom and gloom. There are some definitely amazing things that are happening, especially this year. There's some really cool new planes that we were seeing. Atlas of Thunder Junction coming out soon. I'm so excited for that. Bloomburrow, Duskborn, all really excited about exploring new planes, doing new things like that. But again, just overarching on everything is, hey, we're going to be getting like, 30 Commander Precons plus, an absurd amount of secret layers, an absurd amount of Universes Beyond, and next year it's going to get even worse. So is the direction of Magic going in the right way? In some ways, yes. In many ways, no. And I really hope at some point Wizards changes its outlook to not be, hey, this sold, therefore it was good for Magic, and instead actually listen to the players and say, hey, modern players, we're making a set for you. What do you want? If you ask them if they want Commander Precons for the modern set, I highly doubt they'd say yes. So again, stop trampling out other formats, stop oversaturating Commander, actually listen to players, and work on ways to make Magic better for the long term versus these cash grabs that seem to be just damaging kind of the trust in Wizards and into Magic in general is just, I'd say, gone at this point, and them making any kind of decisions for the health of Magic versus, money in the bank, essentially. So that's all I've got today, though. So let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on all this. Again, there's a lot of different opinions on this kind of stuff. Many players out there are excited for these precons, and it's a way to get players into the format. But do you need 30 plus every year? Do you need to put them into a modern product? We shall see. So yeah, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on all this. I'll try to make sure I I put all the links of all these articles and all these posts in the description below. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.